Good morning, everyone. I wanted to do a new podcast today from the Dallas Arboretum, Dallas, Texas, where I am for a week here doing some classes and workshops and teachings. And I wanted to do a talk on the call for wilderness, the call for nature, because I think it is one of the things that has the most impact on our well-being, but also something that we don't probably measure the consequences on our health, mental health and physical health. And because I was in Dallas and it's a very urban environment and I was missing the sanctuary, I was like, okay, where can I go? Where can I find nature, like true nature? And there's not much. You have to drive quite far away. And I say, oh, why not go to the botanical garden? It's on the lake. There's a beautiful lake here. And maybe being on a lake like that, I could see some natural environment. And so here I am under an incredible oak tree. So for those of you that are watching the video and not just the podcast, you can see this tree behind me. And I do realize, in fact, by being here, that something is missing. Yes, there is diversity. There is definitely beauty in the environment with all the plants and the diversity of species and etc. I even saw some monarch butterfly that are on migrations right now from Canada to Mexico. And so it's a beauty to see such a rare species that is going endangered and maybe extinct, at some point. So that is great. And people love it. There's a lot of kids around. But I realize this is such an organized nature. And everything is tailored to look perfect. And that made me reflect on how we are always seeking perfections, from the beauty of our lawns behind our house or around our houses, to the streets, to the way we organize our life, to the way we want nature to be. We really do not agree with the way nature is, which is wild and diverse and sometimes very messy. But what strikes me more is that, in fact, this is such a reflections on how we see our inner space, our inner mind, how we feel inside ourselves. We are all looking for some kind of perfection or some kind of improvement, some kind of fixing, some kind of getting better, some kind of climbing and getting to more light, as we say, or higher vibration, or a better understanding and things like that. But truth is, spiritual path, and in fact connecting to the divine, is the opposite. It is ugly. It is dirty. It is facing the shadows. It is facing the chaos. It is facing the wilderness of our inner world. It is not a path of climbing. It is a path of descending. It is a path of falling, collapsing, falling on your knees, destroying, like dying, and being reborn. So yes, we have this seeking of the divine, this divine perfection. And we can call it God, we can call it the universe, we can call it what's beating our heart, that life that seems so perfect and extraordinary. And definitely that's what we're looking for when we're coming to those gardens, when we're making the beauty of our lawns, when we're putting makeup on our face. We're seeking that perfection, but we're seeking it on the outer world by putting a reflections of what we think it should look like. So we're making perfect lawns instead of prairies, which are more natural. And lawns are completely dead. In fact, there's no species of insects and plants on a lawn aside from the one we've planted most of the time. We're seeking perfection in those botanical gardens by seeing all those beautiful pieces very well organized, but we don't see that every night hundreds of gardeners comes and remove the dead leaves and cut the trees and cut the branches. Even that beautiful oak tree behind me has been cut in many ways to look the way it looked like. So it's far from its truth, from what it should look like. In the same way, we try to make our life perfect, and we're not very vulnerable when it comes to talking to others and opening on the dirtiness of it, the ugliness of the pain, the ugliness of the chaos, sometimes of the contradictions. So the call for wilderness that we have, that feeling that we have when we get in the wide space, when we go to mountains, when we go to the ocean, when we go trekking in nature, is that reconciliation with our inner most precious core. That duality between unorganized, chaotic, life and death, ugly, dark and light experience that we hold inside. And duality with also that perfection that it is, that perfectly imperfect world, that divine organization that even in the chaos of the jungle, even in the chaos of the wilderness, is fully transpiring and present. But when we try to recreate it, when we plant alone or organize our gardens, or organize botanical gardens like here in Dallas, we are in fact pursuing a wrong path. In the same way that we put makeup on our faces, in the same way that we strive for perfection and to make everything look so good, our house, our garden, our cars, and our lives, this is not life. This is not what's truly happening. In fact, any people that I meet as clients or friends, or people I talk to at the men's circle, or ceremonies we organize, or groups, or even workshops that are just for executives and CEOs, every time the conversation opens way more when we talk about the chaos, when we talk about what's not perfect. And there is a profound liberation and healing power once we open to that wilderness, that call for wilderness. Deep down in our core, this is our mother. This is where we're coming from. We're coming from that world, we're coming from nature, we're coming from the forest. We are linked to it. Either we live in an apartment in a city, in New York, or somewhere else in the world, or either we live in nature. We can't escape it. The only way we can try to escape that and fake it and run away from it is to close our hearts for not feeling and for showing some kind of perfection. And many of us, I did that for many years, and many of us continue doing it in some forms, sometimes not even conscious of it. We need to wear the perfect clothes, the perfect brands, so we strive for luxury brands and things that looks perfect. We go to those beautiful stores where everything is so organized, and we organize our house with those objects, and we plant our gardens with those same beautiful plants that are so organized coming from all over the world. We completely plant our life with an image that we're striving for, and yet we're getting away from the essential, which is the wilderness of our heart, the wilderness of our soul. So I invite you to see how in your life you can answer this call for wilderness. It might be definitely to go to nature and to wide spaces, because you will never experience that voice as strongly as it is expressed over there. None of us can recreate it. But where can I answer the call of wilderness in my personal life? Where can I be more vulnerable with my friends and my loved ones? Where can I embrace the chaos and the pain and the darkness with others? Where can I allow that in my life more so I can connect to myself better? I can reconcile myself. I can feel whole again. That call for wilderness, I have really a feeling for me in my heart. It's a call for sacredness. One of my dear friends in our men's circle a few days ago said, well, the sacredness is in fact the call for holiness. And holiness is to become whole again. Is what do we bring in our life to feel that way? So we need to drop down the mask, drop down the makeup, try to be as authentic as possible. It's not always easy in our society, but it's definitely the only path where we are going to rise together, because there is no rise alone. There is no way I can do my rise toward more light if the world doesn't do it. And the world cannot do it if I don't do my own work. So I call you for more wilderness. And I would love to hear in the comments on these YouTube channels or on my podcast or on the blog, what does it mean for you? How can you call in more wilderness? And maybe, you know, our botanical gardens are going to look very different one day, where we can touch nature, when we can go off the tracks, when we can hug trees, when we just let everything go wild. And so it's more real. And so we can touch the soil and fall and smell and touch and taste. That sounds more like life to me than a very organized museum. That's really what this garden is, or like a zoo where we display species to show how great things are. But in fact, it's purely makeup. There's nothing really true here. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. I hope it's triggering some questions and some quests inside you. And I hope to continue this discussion with you in the coming days and months. And I thank you so much for being present with me today. I'm going to leave you with this beautiful image of this oak tree that kept us company and inspired me to do my talk. And I'm sure you feel a little bit less lonely today as we have seen his true nature, we've recognized his power. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon.